Hi, I'm Sue. Thank you for joining me for today's Bible reading for October 18th. And I'm reading Mark 8 through 9 from the World English Bible. In those days, when there was a very great multitude, and they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to himself and said to them, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have stayed with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away fasting to their home, they will faint on the way, for some of them have come a long way. His disciples answered him, From where could one satisfy these people with bread here in the deserted place? He asked them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. He commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves. Having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to serve, and they served the multitude. They had a few small fish. Having blessed them, he said to serve these also. They ate and were filled. They took up 7 baskets of broken pieces that were left over. Those who had eaten were about 4,000. Then he sent them away. Immediately he entered into the boat with his disciples and came into a region of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees came out and began to question him, seeking from him a sign from heaven and testing him. He sighed deeply in his spirit and said, Why does this generation seek a sign? Most certainly I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation. He left them, and again, entering into the boat, departed to the other side. They forgot to take bread, and they didn't have more than one loaf. Let me start that sentence over. They forgot to take bread, and they didn't have more than 1 loaf in the boat with them. He warned them, saying, Take heed, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod. They reasoned with one another, saying, It's because we have no bread. Jesus, perceiving it, said to them, Why do you reason that it's because you have no bread? Don't you yet perceive, neither understand? Is your heart still hardened? Having eyes, don't you see? And having ears, don't you hear? Don't you remember when I broke the 5 loaves among the 5,000? How many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They told him 12. When the 7 loaves fed the 4,000, how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They told him 7. He asked them, Don't you understand yet? He came to Bethesda. They brought him a blind... That was awkward. Okay, so let me just back up a little bit. So he's saying, just thinking out loud here, again, as always. He's saying, don't you realize I couldn't possibly be talking about bread? You saw me multiply the loaves twice now. So obviously I'm not talking about bread, right? He's talking about the yeast, that religious spirit of the Pharisees. And the yeast of Herod. The yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod. I'm right, because this was right after they came to him, questioning him and asking for a sign. They're just blind. They're blinded by the tradition of men. They're just, spiritually blind. So anyway, now it suddenly changes scenes. It says he came to Bethsaida. They brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. He took hold of the blind man by the hand and brought him out of the village. When he had spat in his eye, he laid his hands on him. He asked him if he saw anything. He looked up and said, I see men, for I see them like trees walking. Then again, he laid his hands on his eyes. He looked intently and was restored and saw everyone clearly. Okay, I had a pause. I thought my phone was on vibrate and it started ringing. I'm sure you heard it. So, to the beginning of this little section, it says, Then again, he laid his hands on his eyes. He looked intently and was restored and saw everyone clearly. He sent him away to his house, saying, Don't enter into the village, nor tell anyone in the village. So here's another note about this translation. Generally when you're reading, if it says he or she, a pronoun like that, then it refers back to the person they were just talking about. That's not happening in these last few verses that I've been reading. It was talking about Jesus, and then it switched to talking about the man, but referred to him as he instead of, making note of who it was before they started talking about him. So it's kind of awkward to read through because you judge your tempo on those kind of things when you're reading out loud. For instance, it says, he looked up and said, I see men, for I see them like trees walking. That's the blind man, or the formerly blind man. And then the verse right after that says, then he laid his hands on his eyes. Well, I think it meant Jesus, not the man, but it said he. right? Yeah, I'm sure you're following me. And it says, he looked intently and was restored and saw everyone clearly. He sent him away. He sent him away, but it's talking about the blind man. So anyway, I'm belaboring it out way too much, but I notice that happens routinely with this version. But I still love it. I'm still enjoying it. So Jesus said, when he sent him away, he said, don't enter into the village, nor tell anyone in the village. Jesus went out with his disciples into the villages of Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked his disciples, whom do men say that I am? They told him, John the Baptizer, and others say Elijah, but others, one of the prophets. He said to them, who do you say that I am? Peter answered, you are the Christ. He commanded them that they should tell no one about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke to them openly. Peter took him and began to rebuke him, but he, turning around and seeing his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, get behind me, Satan, for you have in mind not the things of God, but the things of men. So once again, we talked about this the other day. Here's Satan trying to trip Jesus up so that he wouldn't fulfill his purpose, even though I don't think he fully understood it. Verse 34. He called the multitude to himself with his disciples and said to them, whoever wants to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake and the sake of the good news will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? What will a man give in exchange for his life? For whoever will be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will also be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. Chapter 9, verse 1. He said to them, most certainly I tell you, there are some standing here who will in no way taste death until they see God's kingdom come with power. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and brought them unto the high mountain privately by themselves. So this is the fulfillment of what he just said. Some standing here who won't taste death until they see God's kingdom coming in power. So this is the transfiguration. So it says he brought them up to a high mountain privately by themselves, and he was changed into another form in front of them. His clothing became glistening, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth can whiten them. Elijah and Moses appeared to them, and they were talking with Jesus. But Peter answered Jesus, Rabbi, it's good for us to be here. Let's make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For he didn't know what to say, for they were very afraid. A cloud came, overshadowing them. A voice came out of the cloud, this is my beloved Son, listen to him. Suddenly looking around, they saw no one with them any more except Jesus only. As they were coming down from the mountain, he commanded them that they should tell no one what things they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. They kept this saying to themselves, questioning what the rising from the dead meant. They asked him, saying, why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? He said to them, Elijah indeed comes first and restores all things. How is it written about the Son of Man that he should suffer many things and be despised? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they have also done to him whatever they wanted to, even as it is written about him. Coming to the disciples, he saw a great multitude around them, and scribes questioning them. Immediately all the multitude, when they saw him, were greatly amazed, and running to him, greeted him. He asked the scribes, what are you asking them? One of the multitude answered, Teacher, I brought to you my son, who has a mute spirit, and wherever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams at the mouth, and grinds his teeth, and wastes away. I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they weren't able. He answered him, Unbelieving generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me. They brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed him, and he fell on the ground, wallowing and foaming at the mouth. He asked his father, How long has it been since this has come to him? He said, From childhood. Often it has cast him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said to him, If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out with tears, I believe, help my unbelief. When Jesus saw that a multitude came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to him, You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." After crying out and convulsing him greatly, it came out of him. The boy became like one dead, so much that most of them said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and raised him up, and he arose. When he had come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why couldn't we cast him out?" He said to them, "This kind can come out by nothing except by prayer and fasting." They went out from there and passed through Galilee. He didn't want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, and said to them, "The Son of Man is being handed over to the hands of men, and they will kill him, and when he's killed, on the third day he will rise again." But they didn't understand the saying, and were afraid to ask him. He came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing among yourselves on the way?" He sat down and called the 12, and he said to them, "If any man wants to be first, he shall be last of all, and servant of all." He took a little child and set him in the middle of them. Taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever receives one such little child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me doesn't receive me, but him who sent me." John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone who doesn't follow us casting out demons in your name, and we forbid him, because he doesn't follow us." But Jesus said, "Don't forbid him, for there is no one who will do a mighty work in my name, and be able quickly to speak evil of me. For whoever is not against us is on our side. Whoever will give a cup of water to drink in my name, because you are Christ, most certainly I tell you, he will in no way lose his reward. Whoever will cause one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him if he were thrown into the sea with a millstone hung around his neck. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It's better for you to enter life maimed, rather than having your two hands to go into Gehenna, into the unquenchable fire, where the worm doesn't die and the fire is not quenched. If your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It's better for you to enter into life maimed, rather than having your 2 feet be cast into Gehenna, into the fire that will never be quenched, where the worm doesn't die and the fire is not quenched. If your eye causes you to stumble, cast it out. It is better for you to enter into God's kingdom with one eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into Gehenna of fire, where the worm doesn't die and the fire is not quenched. For every one will be salted with fire, and every sacrifice will be seasoned with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, with what will you season it? Have salt in yourselves, and be at peace with one another. That's the end of today's reading for Mark 8 and 9. There is a link in the comments for the World English Bible affiliate link for that, and a study tool if you're interested in that. Also, be sure to check the description for other links for playlists. There's an email for how to get your free 1-year Bible if you want it. I talk more about that on some of my other broadcasts. And please feel free to comment your thoughts and let me know what you think if you have any insight on any of today's reading. That's it. Till next time. Shalom, shalom.